Hi, my name's Greg. I'm from DeepBlue. To celebrate the re-release of DeepBlue's first 4 albums, we're going back and speaking to some of the people who made the project happen. Today, I'm speaking to Sophie and Greta, some of the very first players of DeepBlue, and also some of the most creative and talented players that I know. So, Greta, what was DeepBlue like when you first joined?
Well, I'd come from playing in bands. I'd been in Golden Circles, Lazy Ocean Glitters, and I was, really, really blown away by playing with classically trained musicians. I was the only DeepBlue member who didn't go study their instrument at tertiary level. And I'd been also playing in venues that didn't have such amazing sound systems. So Rick's and the Zoo compared with QPAC, for example. And for me, it was just this incredible step up in having to learn from the musicians in DeepBlue. And I think they learned a little bit from me too, because I'd been, playing without music. I'd been playing in a way that was perhaps a bit more expressive than your standard regular orchestra player. And so, we all got to share our various different backgrounds.
So, Sophie, why did you want to be part of DeepBlue to begin with? What attracted you about it?
Well, I guess I was opposite to Greta. I was learning classically at school and then, all the QAO orchestras, and I always was getting in trouble for moving in the orchestras. I was really getting into my music, and that was actually not allowed so much in the classical orchestras. And I was really into drama and dance and, all the performing arts. So I was looking for something that would combine all of those different elements. And then, when I was at uni, and I specifically went to QUT because I was interested in pushing past, the classical music barriers and trying different things with electronics and things like that. So I thought QUT would be a good fit for me. And then when Andy kind of pitched this idea, I was so excited. I was like, this is everything that I've been looking for in an orchestra.
What was it like in those early days? What were the first couple of rehearsals like?
So exciting, but super challenging as well, because we had these theatre directors coming in, and they were asking us as a lot of classical musicians to do crazy stuff, like put clown noses on and buckets on our heads. That was uncomfortable for a lot of musicians, but it was definitely a mixed bag. Everyone was approaching this experience really differently and with their different backgrounds and bringing different things to the table, and we were all learning from each other, and everyone was really being pushed, I reckon.
And so, Greta, coming from more of a band background, how easy was it for you to sort of pick up this new sort of performance style? Was this pretty natural, or was this something that was, totally alien?
It was just amazing to work with, like Soph said, the directors, because I'd never had any experience of working with a movement or circus or theatre director. And we got some training in viewpoints and just becoming aware, all of our peripheral vision, and there was a lot of work done to really sort of meld the group. We'd started off with some players, and then when we took the show from QUT into QPAC, the preview, we became a lot more involved with developing the show, the stage show, and we had the amazing Wayne Jennings join us by that stage, who taught the cellists how to walk around and playing their cello with their cello balanced on their neck. And so there was huge amounts of learnings, but at the same time we were really supported, government support too. DeepBlue is such a fantastic example of how a big chunk of government funding being given to an arts organisation can foster so much employment and opportunities for so many musicians. I could list 30, 50 musicians, and thanks to that funding and the support from the university, we got so much longevity, and we managed to maintain the momentum through a period of university support, government support. We were a business, and now we're actually an incorporated association, so a not-for-profit organisation run by the musicians, and so it's become, it's really become a great example of how, a bit of government support to kickstart things can build something that's really long lasting.
At this point, DeepBlue had recorded an album, gathered all these musicians, was starting to work with theatre directors and totally non-standard stuff for orchestra, and you had to sort of coalesce and put this all together, into a stage show. What were those first couple of shows like? Did the audience get it? How did it go?
I reckon it was a really awesome experience for audiences because we were getting them to sit in a cabaret mode. They were like sitting on tables and chairs. There was a bar in the venue. They could go and grab a drink whenever they wanted. There were 3 different stages, and the performers were working those 3 stages during the show. There were tablecloths with pens, and we were asking audiences to write down comments, feedback, what they wanted, what they didn't want, and that was the very start of what has evolved into a very interactive kind of platform with audiences entire time, with texting and then the electronic show program. It was really exciting. Those shows were really exciting.
We were very much kind of just walking through the audience. The fourth wall was totally blown apart, and then the challenge was to do that in a conventional theatre like QPAC. That was the next show, and we had a lot of support from John Kotsis, and Andy and Darren had a great relationship with him, and he managed to open up the theatre a bit, and it translated well. We got enough momentum to then take the preview on tour through really bringing it into a more conventional theatre and trying it out on, under a proscenium arch.
So you then had to take this, really immersive and complicated stage show and put it on tour. How did you do that? And was it fun?
Well, yeah, the first tour of the preview took us almost everywhere. It was like Queensland over to Western Australia and Darwin, and we got to really play in some very remote places and learnt how to scale back the show. Like Soph said, we'd busk in the interval, and then afterwards we'd come out and we'd chat to the audiences, and so often it was chatting to someone who'd never seen a violin perform live.
I loved the way that the show started. So we started the show with Mars off from the Planet series, and we all had our backs to the audience, and it was just such an exciting start. I always would have so much anxiety and excitement of just like this, because it was a real cello heavy kind of start, and it was just super exciting to then just do this reveal, and because we were sitting down and then we'd stand up, and this was kind of the first time the cellists had experimented with standing up and moving. So starting sitting down, and then there was this kind of surprise of actually we are moving as well, and just the freedom that brought as a cellist to performance was incredible. And going back to the hotels afterwards, and just not being able to sleep because we were all just so excited. We were just feeding off the audiences and feeding off each other, and it was just such a exciting and fun time.
So at this point, this first sort of phase of DeepBlue, you've got actually 2 albums under your belt, the Preview 1.0 and the Preview 1.5. You've also done, developed this stage show and taken it on tour. You're in a position now to look back at this first stage, but also look forward as to what's coming next. Where did you want to take DeepBlue in that next phase of its development?
After doing the preview, it just gave us this idea that we could extend DeepBlue's next show by bringing in a lot of narrative and also sharing more about the DeepBlue players individually. All of the feedback we got through the texts and through the chats after the show was like, we want to know more about you and your music and your instrument and how you came to play it. And so the dream was born, which was just, responding to the fact that your audiences wanted to really connect with us, so that the story and the stage banter was about us as musicians, and it was much more influenced by the players of DeepBlue.
Yeah, Greta and Sophie, thank you so much for chatting. It's fascinating to hear your perspective on these first days of DeepBlue, and thank you so much for taking us through it.